अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. May there be perfect correspondence between my thoughts, actions, speech. May there be no crookedness in that. May the self-effulgent God shine forth in my awareness. Let me feel the illumination of that divine within and without. May the truths of the scriptures come to me. May not what I learn from them ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us feel the all-pervading, luminous presence of God around me, inside me. In fact, as I see that, all the distinction of inside and outside, I and world, is gone. All the fictitious distinctions which were cause of bondage and suffering are gone, vanished. They were just an illusion. This is the infinite, luminous ocean of bliss. The waves are rising and falling on this. This blissful, luminous, all-pervading ocean of existence beyond time and space is the source of all apparent, transitory waves of I, mine, world, this, that, past, present, future. Let us feel this source. Let us feel this source assuming the human form of Sri Ramakrishna. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, dear friends, let us begin today's class as usual with the opening chant. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam shrimadattatam bhuvi grananti te Bhurida Jana. So this is the story of life of Sri Ramakrishna being actually narrated or is composed, written by one of his illustrious direct monastic disciple, Swami Saradananda. And he is trying to bring out that how God appears without any change in content in a human form, performs what is called Leela. They play. It is a play. It means it appears, but there is a hidden, a deeper reality to it. So there is, therefore, the name of the original biography in Bengali is Leela Prasanga. Means how that divine took the human form for educating human beings. There is no other purpose there to perform this play, this big show, so that illumination of who we are can come to us, and thus we will get liberated. That is the way for liberation, and that is the purpose of this advent of God in human form. We have seen a few times that this is actually because of the tremendous compassion that, as Shankaracharya describes in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita commentary, that it is bhutano jigrikshaya, that it is swaprayojana bhave apid, without any selfish purpose associated with it, just out of compassion for the suffering human beings. This divine appears to be born, jata iva, that it is lokanugraha kurvan iva. It is as if that Lord, as if born, as if living amongst us, as if showering grace, compassion on others. So there is the appearance part of it, the Leela part of it, that it is a stage show, and whatever a person appears on the stage, the deeper reality still is not changed. Whatever role this in today's show, that person may appear as one character, in tomorrow's show that same actor would appear as another character. So it is like that. The same divine being is appearing without any change in various different ways to bring to us this our true spiritual nature. So this is to be felt, to be experienced while studying this biography. The chapter that we have been studying is from this volume called Guru Bhava, Sri Ramakrishna as teacher, Guru. And here in this chapter he is being shown as how he is connecting to his own gurus. As a human being, the God incarnation also has to learn from teachers. This has a twofold purpose. Firstly, that as a human being, all the apparent actions are like human beings. So And this has the teaching component associated, that we all have to go to Guru. Even the God incarnation also has to learn from Gurus. And he was an ideal disciple, did everything as told, as instructed by his teachers. So, and because of the already pure mind, following a teacher's instruction, within no time he could reach the ultimate end of that particular sadhana or spiritual practice. So, therefore, he could master very easily in one body all the different paths of spiritual life, and then could pronounce that great statement that Joto Mot Toto Path. As many different religions or opinions, there are so many different paths. All paths lead to the same goal. So here, right now we have been studying the story of Brahmani, who was one of the teachers of Sri Ramakrishna. And this chapter also, most importantly, indicates that how Sri Ramakrishna's teachers, when they came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna, there is a reversal of roles too, that the disciple in turn became the teacher of these gurus. There was some difficulty, some lacuna in this understanding of these teachers, although they were well established. They had realized the ultimate truth. But although they had full knowledge of the path through which they reached there, their understanding of other paths was not very correct. So therefore, Sri Ramakrishna taught them by his example and words that there are other paths that lead to the same goal as well. So here the topic that we were discussing was that in course of spiritual practice, one invariably develops certain powers which are not usually found in people. It is a result of concentration. As we know that concentration automatically builds power. That it is in fact all the engineering, all such works that we do, it depends on concentrating the available power so that it can perform the work. There is the sunlight, but as such it will not burn. Say if you keep a paper outside in the afternoon blazing sun, it may become warm, but it will not burn. But concentrate the rays of the sun using a lens on a point on that paper, and in the paper the temperature there is just becomes so much, it starts burning. So it is thus in spiritual practices, what happens is our mind gets concentrated, and all the scattered powers of the mind, as they concentrate, the powers start developing. So it is, and if we concentrate, if we look at those powers, if we think of those powers, then we lose the track. We forget the purpose of this concentration. And thus get laid astray. So this is being taught here through these examples of two disciples of Brahmani. There are several examples in the life stories of many spiritual practitioners, that how the powers come to them and how these powers can become a big source of distraction. So it is these powers were, with Chandra and Girija, as an example of Swami Vivekananda was given, that how he started getting some very special visions, some clairvoyance and all that. And so he would see and hear whatever is happening in some distant corner, and just would rush to verify, and then would feel astonished that that all came true, and also realize that this is a distraction. Sri Ramakrishna, when this young man Narendranath, Swami Vivekananda, told him about this, he told, well, don't meditate for some time. Let these tendencies about, seeing what I see because of this power, let them subside, and then again you can take up this meditation. So, because it is a terrible, terrible distraction, and commonly if a person is not conscious of these, that the goal is not these powers, one may find it almost impossible to escape the snares of these powers. So, therefore it is this incident is told about Chandra and Girija, that Chandra's ego became inflated after he achieved the Gutika Siddhi that was described earlier, that there is a small, some pebble which when invoked through a particular mantra and tied to one's body, then that person becomes invisible, and then can become visible again when needed, just by separating that gutika, that pebble, from the body. So he acquired that power. Now there are the desires which normally he wouldn't be able to fulfill. But because of now this particular power, he could now sneak anywhere, and nobody could see him going, and so there is no question of obstruction. So what happened was, Chandra gradually became very attached to lust and gold. He became infatuated with the daughter of a respected and wealthy man, and began to visit her using this miraculous power of invisibility. As his egotism and selfishness increased, Chandra lost his occult power and was humiliated. So this becomes the fate. The power you get, but when you spend it, now it is not getting generated anymore, because the process of meditation is discontinued. So now the power came and the power was gone. So this person came therefore to be humiliated, because he was found out. It was found out what he was doing, who is he, and so forth. So the Master also told us about Girija's amazing occult power. One day the Master walked with Girija to Shambhu Mallik's garden house near the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. Shambhu loved the master sincerely and considered himself blessed if he could serve the master in any way. He leased some land near Dakshineshwar temple for 250 rupees and built a cottage for the Holy Mother. The Holy Mother lived there in those days. Every day she would take her bath in the Ganges and then visit the master. Once the Holy Mother had a severe attack of dysentery while staying at that cottage, and Shambhu arranged for her treatment and a special diet. His devout wife was also adored the Master and Holy Mother, regarding them as divine beings. If the Holy Mother was at Dakshineshwar, Shambhu's wife would invite her to her house on Tuesdays, which are auspicious, and worship her as goddess. Shambhu would pay the carriage fare when Master went to Kolkata and provide him with food and other necessities. Of course, this privilege of serving the Master came to him after Mathur passed away. The Master described Shambhu as his second supplier of provisions. Quite often he would walk to his garden and spend a few hours discussing spiritual matters with him. On one occasion the Master went with Girija to take a walk in Shambhu's garden, where they spent a long time discussing spiritual matters. The Master used to say, and this is in quotes, "The nature of a devotee is like that of a hemp smoker. A hemp smoker pulls deeply on the pipe, then hands it over to another smoker and slowly releases the smoke. He does not find any joy in smoking alone. Similarly, when devotees get together, one of them becomes overwhelmed when talking about God and then remains in blissful silence. The devotee then allows others to talk about God, and that is, it is written him in H capital, and enjoys listening to them." And this quote complete. So, on that day, Shambhu, Girija, and the Master were so absorbed in their spiritual discussion that they took no notice of time passing, and the evening deepened into night. Suddenly the Master came to his senses and took his leave of Shambhu. He started down the road heading in the direction of the Kali temple, but it was too dark and he was unable to see anything on the road. He stumbled at every step and lost his way. Because he had left Shambhu's garden in a God-intoxicated mood, he had not noticed the darkness and had not borrowed a lantern. Now, where was the way? He moved forward with great difficulty, holding Girija's hand. When Girija noticed this, he stopped and said, "Wait a bit, brother, I will give you light." He then turned around and projected a beam of light from his back, illuminating the road. The Master told, "With that light I clearly saw the way up to the gate of the Kali temple and reached it without difficulty." The Master then smiled and concluded this narration. But, and it is in quote, "But they did not retain those occult abilities. While they lived with me, their powers disappeared." Quote complete. When we asked the reason for this, he said, again quotes, "Divine Mother withdrew their powers into this. pointing to his body for their own good. Afterwards, they gave up supernatural practices and resumed their progress along the path towards God. So, the powers otherwise become big obstacles. And staying with Sri Ramakrishna, therefore Sri Ramakrishna very compassionately took care that these powers get absorbed, get removed from them. So this is what happens when one is having these powers. It is a natural tendency to exercise those powers. If you have it, you feel like exercising. It is we see that if you know something, then you think that, well, let me show my knowledge. It is, I can do that. It is some years ago, I was having some camera and then was trying to figure out how to do this. And then one very young middle school going boy was there, and he said, well, I can try, I can. And then that man fixed it. Now it is that young boy fixed it. It is like that. You know something, you have power to do it. And so when there is a chance, there would be the expression of that. It is all right to the extent that if one does not lose one's spiritual path. I am telling, these are the normal common things. But when there are occult powers, extraordinary powers that human beings do not have, imagine how much ego would get puffed up. That, oh, nobody can do it, I have this very special power. That is why I am able to do it. Nobody else can do. See, the ego gets so much puffed up with that, and then naturally spiritual practice or meditation all takes a back seat. The master continued, what is there in occult powers? When one's mind is entangled with them, one moves away from Satchidananda. Listen to this story. A man had 2 sons. The elder left home while he was still young and became a monk. Meanwhile, the younger one got his education and became learned and virtuous. He married and settled down to fulfill his duties as a householder. According to the traditions, after 12 years, a monk can visit his birthplace if he wishes. So this monk went to visit his birthplace after being gone for 12 years. He saw his younger brother's farm, his crops, his wealth. When he reached the door, he called out his brother's name. Hearing his name, the younger brother came out to greet his elder brother. He was overwhelmed with happiness at seeing him after such a long time. He bowed to him, brought him inside the house, and began to serve him. After sharing a meal, they began to talk about various things. The younger brother asked the elder, brother, you have given up worldly pleasures and wandered as a monk for many years. Please tell me what you have gained by this. The elder brother said, you want to see what I have achieved? Come with me. So he took his brother to the bank of a nearby river and said, watch. He then crossed the river walking on the water. Reaching the other bank, he called back, did you see that? The younger brother paid half a penny to the ferryman,
crossed the river by boat, went up to his brother and said, "What have I seen?" The older brother said, "Did you not see me cross the river on foot?" Smiling, the younger brother replied, "Don't you see me pay half a penny to cross this river? Is that all you gained by performing austerities for 12 years? Your power is worth only half a penny." As the monk listened to his brother's words, he was awakened and focused his mind on God realization. So this is the power. How much? Well, for 12 years you worked to get what half a penny can do. So it is like that. That many times, one of my, I remember this, it was the days of comparatively very early days of my monastic life. And so I used to think then that I can do so many things that others cannot. Look, I can do this very easily. This is the skill that I have got, and so forth. And then one of my brothers, means another this our inmate staying there with me. So he said, "What is there, you are showing off these things. There are hundreds of thousands of people in the world who can do better than you are doing. Is it this that you have come for?" And wow, I still remember that it is that, yes, is this that we have come for, to flout all whatever I can do, whatever you can do? No, it is not the purpose. So this idea is that you can do many things, certainly, but that is not the purpose of your life. That focus has to be on that, on God and God alone. It is, and especially when one gets some miraculous power, then one has to be very, very cautious. So, thus conversing with us, Master explained in many ways that in spiritual life, the attainment of such powers is trifling, worthless, and contemptible. We cannot resist mentioning another of Master's stories on this subject. He said, by performing yogic practices, a yogi achieved a state in which everything he said was infallible. Whatever he told anyone came to pass. If he said to a man, "Die," the man died immediately. If the yogi said, "Leave," he came back to life at once. One day, while he was on a journey, the yogi met a devout holy man who was practicing meditation and repeating God's name. He heard that the holy man had been performing austerities for many years. So the vain and arrogant yogi said condescendingly to this holy man, "Well, you have been repeating the name of God all this time. Tell me, what have you gained from it?" The holy man answered humbly, "What should I gain? I don't want anything. I want only to realize Him, the God. And that's the only possible, that is only possible through His grace. So what can I do but to call upon Him and hope that He will have mercy on me, even though He considered me to be poor and lowly?" All that effort was nothing, said the yogi. You ought to try to get something. The holy man remained silent. After a while he asked, And you, sir, what have you achieved? Watch this, said the yogi. He turned to an elephant that was tied to a tree close by and said, Elephant, die! At once the elephant dropped dead. The yogi proudly said, Did you see? Now watch again. Then he commanded the dead elephant, Elephant, live! And at once the elephant came to life, shook all the dust off his body, and stood under the tree as before. Well, said the yogi triumphantly, now you have seen for yourself. All this while the holy man had been silent, but now he said, I have seen an elephant die and come back to life again. But what have you gained by having this power? Has it freed you from the wheel of death and rebirth? Will it save you from the sickness and old age? Can it help you to realize God? The yogi was speechless, and his understanding awakened. So, this is with Bhairavi Brahmani's help, Chandra and Girija. There is a footnote here that Swami Vivekananda happened to meet him. This in June 1899, Swami Vivekananda went to England and America for the second time. Shortly after this, a man who introduced himself as Chandra came to Belur Math and lived there for about a month. Swami Brahmananda was then living in the monastery, and we saw him talking to Chandra privately. We heard that he asked repeatedly of Swami Brahmananda, do you feel the living presence of the Master here? He told us that whatever the Master had said about him had come to pass. Only one prediction remained to be fulfilled, and that was the Master's promise to appear before him at his death. He used to spend long hours in japa and meditation in the shrine, with tears running down his face. If anyone asked him about the Master, he would joyfully relate whatever he knew. He appeared to us to be a quiet man. Seeing him remaining silently seated with his closed eyes, someone told him derisively, derisively. Someone asked him derisively, Sir, do you take opium? He humbly replied, What offense have I committed that you are saying this to me? When he went to the shrine for the first time, he bowed down and addressed the Master's picture as elder brother, and then profusely shed tears of love and devotion. He looked like an ordinary man and wore an ochre cloth and wear no ochre cloth, nor did he display any religious marks on his body. He wore a dhoti and a scarf, carried an umbrella and a canvas bag. In this bag he had another dhoti, a towel, and probably a water pot. He said that he often travelled to various holy places in that way. Swami Brahmananda showed him a particular love and respect and asked him to live in Belur Math permanently. Chandra agreed and said, I shall come and live here after making some arrangements regarding the landed property at home. but he never returned. The man was probably the Chandra referred to above. So, this is how this story. Sorry, it is not connected with Swami Vivekananda in any way. It is. So, with Bhairavi Brahmani's help, Chandra and Girija had made great progress in the path of God, but they had not attained perfection. When they became associated with the Master, his divine power destroyed uh, uh, their occult abilities and their deep rooted egos. Thus, their understanding was awakened and they moved forward along their spiritual paths with renewed energy. So, this is the narration about these two others whom Bhairavi Brahmani was destined to teach. So, she had been given this to understand by the Divine Mother that she will have to teach, will have to help the three. So, these were the two and Sri Ramakrishna the third. We have clear evidence that although the Bhairavi Brahmani made great progress in her sadhana, she did not achieve full realization of the indivisible Satchidananda. The Master perfected the disciplines of Tantra with the help of the Brahmani before Totapuri came to Dakshineshwar Kali temple. This naked itinerant monk had attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the culmination of Vedantic experience. When Totapuri saw the Master, he recognized him to be a competent aspirant of Vedanta. After he initiated the Master into sannyasa, Tota instructed him in the sadhana of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The Brahmani tried her utmost to dissuade the Master from continuing along that path. She said, "My son, don't visit him often. Don't mix with him too much. His path is the path of dry knowledge. If you associate with him too closely, your love and devotion for God will disappear." So this was the idea of Brahmani. Although very advanced in this particular path of what is called Tantra and Tantric devotions, still she was she had not reached the ultimate end of the non-dual Satchidananda reality, that merging completely in the divine awareness. It is evident from this that although the learned Brahmani was endowed with extraordinary devotion to God, she had no knowledge of, nor could she even imagine, the fact that the Nirvikalpa state of Vedanta, which she considered to be a dry path, is in fact the first step to attaining supreme devotion. See, this statement is very important. One should try to fathom this statement. Many those who practice think that they practice devotion and thus therefore despise this path of knowledge. They should pay special attention to this idea that if you want to become a devotee, just pay attention that it is that Bhairavi she had no knowledge of, nor could she even imagine the fact that the Nirvikalpa state of Vedanta, which she considered to be dry path is in fact the first step to attaining supreme devotion. A very important statement, that supreme devotion does not come to a person unless one merges into that state of nirvikalpa samadhi. And he describes here it is the first step. Imagine in that nirvikalpa samadhi all counting disappears. So if this is the first step, what could be this? The count of the second, third, fourth, fifth steps? There is no counting possible in that realm where the names and forms and all other things disappear. It is, but it can be seen that it is only when one goes beyond the specifics, names and forms, then the true devotion to God makes the presence. Till then, it is one gets tied down by the names and forms, and thus the devotion to God is of a different category, a lower category, that it is a particularized form of God one gets attracted to. But the supreme devotion does not come till nirvikalpa samadhi. So, and this statement is to be pondered, that thus what we practice as devotion is therefore a way to gradually move towards that nirvikalpa samadhi. So that devotion and that knowledge both are of the complementary nature. They both take us gradually towards that state where then the love alone remains. It is so this is mentioned here that Brahmani could not fathom that. She did not know that only those who are pure, illumined and contained in the Atman can love God without motive. As the Master used to say, pure devotion and pure knowledge are one and the same. This is to be deeply felt, that pure knowledge has no antagonism with pure devotion. In the impure state they are different, and therefore both could be followed. The spiritual aspirant, depending on the temperament, could emphasize one over other. But in that devotion and in that knowledge, actually both need to be practiced. That is why Shankaracharya describes as the means to practice knowledge in Vivek Chudamani that the bhakti is the means, supreme means, moksha karana samagriyam bhaktireva gariyasi. An important statement coming from one who is known for as the exponent of the path of knowledge. So Shankaracharya mentions that bhakti reva, that it is bhakti alone is superior as the various means of attaining liberation, moksha. So that bhakti is to be practiced along with the practice of knowledge when both are not perfect. So you take the help of both, and then
as one enters that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, now it becomes the state of where you can feel the supreme love for God. So, this is called by the scriptures, Vedanta scriptures, as post-knowledge devotion, jnanottara bhakti, that the devotion after attainment of this supreme knowledge. It is the true devotion. One cannot really say anything how it happens, the mechanism, the logic behind it. All those things are left far, far behind. All the cause, effect, time, space, all that is already dissolved in that nirvikalpa samadhi. There is no separation at all. That is the meaning of nirvikalpa. There is no doubt and no second option at all. All two are gone. Vikalpa means an option, that this or this. Now in oneness, there is no such possibility. There is no option. And so one can see that this state drowns all these ideas of logic and arriving logically at a conclusion. All that becomes meaningless completely. And thus the love alone now comes up. That is the true supreme devotion. So it is described by Narada that when one gets it, one is now not conscious of anything, is completely satisfied. There is nothing now lacking. So that is the para or supreme devotion. So this is an important statement that the devotees should note. So we suppose that the Brahmani was not able to understand this. For this reason, when the master shaved his head, put on an ochre cloth, and practiced Nirvikalpa Samadhi after being initiated into sannyasa by Totapuri, he kept it secret from his own mother as well as from Brahmani, Bhairavi Brahmani. We heard that the master's aged mother was then living in the upper floor of the northern Nahabat of Dakshineshwar. The master confined himself to the hut near the Panchavati for 3 days to practice the sadhana of Vedanta beyond the range of public view. At that time only Totapuri occasionally visited him. The master had paid no heed to the Brahmani's words. So this is, although Brahmani was his guru, but while she was teaching things from her path, Sri Ramakrishna obeyed perfectly. But she had no expertise, no knowledge of this other path. And so she had this problem that no, that's not good. That is, you will get into a very dry state of mind. Don't go to him much. Sri Ramakrishna did not listen to that kind of advice from Brahmani. And gradually Brahmani learnt this also. This thought at least was now understandable to her later. So
This is how things happen. And then from what the master told us, it seems that Brahmani was an aspirant of the heroic mode of Tantra. The three modes of sadhana are described in Tantra: bestial, heroic, and divine. So, lust, anger, and other animal propensities are predominant in the aspirant of the bestial mode. An aspirant of the type should avoid all objects of temptation, carefully maintain external purity and conduct, and engage in japa and purascharana, repeated recitation of a mantra for perfection. In the heroic aspirant, passion for God prevails over animal propensities. The attraction of lust and gold and other sense objects only only intensifies his love and longing for God. So this type of aspirant should remain unperturbed while living amidst the temptations of lust and gold, and try to devote his or her whole mind to God. As for the aspirant of the divine mode, the mind of such one is free from lust and anger, and has been carried away forever by the current of divine love. For that person, the practice of forgiveness, sincerity, kindness, contentment, truthfulness, and other virtues has become as natural as breathing. In short, it can be said about these three modes of sadhana that the best, the second best, and the inferior aspirants mentioned in Vedanta are correspondingly followers of the divine, heroic, and bestial modes described in Tantra. Now this paragraph, of course, need more attention, more discussion, more thought. I request all listeners to read this paragraph again and think about it. And when we meet next Tuesday again to discuss this, they can put their points that what they have understood from this, from these three types of the modes in which this Tantra is presented. So one can then take up the discussion of this next Tuesday. So we will meditate on what we read today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to present them. Yes, please. Oh, what page is that paragraph? Yes. That page is, I didn't mention the pages today, sorry. That paragraph is on page 528, 529. 528, 529 is the picture, and then 530. 528, 530 beginning, yeah. So let us conclude with the closing prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.